We finally got into the second closed beta of Petit Planet together, and we have been playing it quite a bit since then. The short version is, we really like this game, just not so much for the multiplayer.
Which is slightly ironic considering that I waited ages to finally play it with you. Because as much as we enjoy spending time in Petit Planet, most of the things we ended up loving are things you unfortunately do alone. So right now, it kind of feels like a single-player game that occasionally lets you hang out with friends. Which isn't bad, but it does feel a bit limited, especially for a multiplayer life sim. So, before we get into the multiplayer side of things, let's talk about what Petit Planet actually does really well. Because there's a lot here that works, am I right?
Absolutely. And because you know me, yes, I have to talk about the customization first. Who needs quest progress when they have so many options to style your character? Hairstyles, outfits, eye shapes, animations. And from what we've seen so far, you can really create a unique look to stand out. But you can still meet your adorable little doppelganger here and there, of course. Great taste, ma'am! We love that your character actually ends up feeling like your character, because the starters had me a little worried. Even if the actual multiplayer elements are a bit limited at the moment, this part of the social systems actually feels good and natural. Walking around together, taking screenshots, messing around with emotes, it's simple stuff compared to, let's say, MMORPGs, but it works. The emotes especially add a surprising amount of personality to your character, and that makes even the smallest interactions feel a bit more alive than you'd expect. So if you're someone who enjoys just hanging out in games, like a digital hangout with friends or strangers, Petit Planet definitely has that cozy side.
Then there are the neighbors, and honestly, for me, they might be one of the strongest parts of the whole game. They are fully voiced now, have their own personalities and their own little stories. So they don't feel like filler NPCs, but memorable encounters, which makes spending time with them feel meaningful in a way that right now multiplayer just doesn't quite match. Exploration and especially the collection aspect tie into that as well. The world gives you tons of things to discover, different wildlife, flowers, minerals and more. And your neighbors almost always have an opinion about your new discoveries, while the Omni Gallery system keeps track of it all. So you always have something to work toward. Which, interestingly, this is one of the few areas where multiplayer does help. Just not in the way you would expect. Because if your friends have different biomes or different Luca fruits installed, their planets generate different resources and creatures. So visiting them can actually help you complete your own collection. At least if they let you. Because I swear I granted Lumi gathering rights more often than MOBA told me, Mo Rush. Overall, it's a very nice idea that just stops short of becoming something a bit more interactive.
And on the topic of interaction, this leads us directly to the Bazaar. This is supposed to be the social hub of the game. And right now, it's fine, but a little shallow. Which is usually not what you want to hear from your main social hub. There are a few activities, but most of them felt more or less forced to us. We really liked the dance minigame, but the others, let's say we were not too impressed. The biggest problem for us was probably that 3 of the main activities are based on AI companions. And we're not just thinking about environmental effects of AI here, but they were just not fun, like at all. There is a campfire area where the AI NPC wants players to engage in word chains or in collaboratively telling a story. But they constantly interrupt themselves whenever someone new arrives or someone leaves. We never got to hear anything like a campfire story from them. Also because no player ever contributed anything. It was pretty weird. Then there's the cafe, where you can chat up Nalo, the AI barista, which is cute once or twice, or until she starts roasting you. Besides the AI, most of the interactions here just feel very structured, like you're following along with a system to do daily quests instead of creating something with other players. And that's kind of the recurring theme. You are around other people, but you're not really doing much with them. It would be so easy to push this further. Even small things like simple co-op minigames or activities with actual goals would already make a huge difference. But the biggest missed opportunity here is the Bazaar itself. Because why is it called a bazaar if players can't actually run stalls? I was ready to become a full-time fruit merchant. There's no real trading or player-driven economy. You mostly just complete daily tasks to earn currency and unlock cosmetics. And after a few days, you start to see the limits of that loop.
But the Bazaar is not the only multiplayer system where things start to feel restrictive pretty quickly. Especially when you compare this to, for example, how Pokopia handles multiplayer. The friend system in Petit Planet only allows a small number of close friends, which are cooler friends, obviously, with some additional features, like a memory space, where screenshots of the both of you get shared. Cute, but it could be more exclusive and deeper. Because even when you visit them, close or casual friends, it never really feels like a shared space. Permissions reset every time you're visiting, interactions are limited to emotes or chatting, and you're constantly reminded that the place is not your own. Like politely standing in someone else's house, hands behind your back, don't touch anything style. You can harvest some of the renewable resources, but beyond that, you can't really interact with much. Especially the trading is kinda meh. Because there's no sharing of furniture, recipes, or meaningful item trading in general. Even gifting is unfortunately limited to basic materials. So I'm still sitting on a very expensive dress I bought for Lumi. But hey, at least you can freely switch your gender. So for a game that focuses so heavily on creativity, it's a bit surprising how little of that creativity you can actually share.
And that's exactly the point, because here's the bigger issue. There's no shared progression. You can't build or terraform anything together. And you can't live on the same planet, heck, not even in a tent or a bunk bed at your friend's house. You cannot have any co-op project or shared goals at all, which makes multiplayer feel more like visiting a showcase instead of being part of a shared experience. And this is where the game could improve the most, without needing to change any of its core design with the planets and neighbors. Even something as simple as shared planets or better building rights for close friends, for example, would already shift the entire dynamic to the better. Imagine being able to invite a lovely friend to live on your planet with you. They get their own little house and they can help you decorate the island. That kind of trust-based system would open up so many possibilities without breaking story progression. Or, you know what? It would be even better to get another shared planet if you become close friends. One that you can both get equal building rights for and then work on as a shared project. I mean, I'd even pay good money for that privilege. Right now, that layer is missing.
And exactly that part really surprised me. Because during the last playtest, and from experiences of other similar games, it felt like such a no-brainer that building will be available for groups. But it just isn't. Also, another similar example is the Starsea Voyage. This is actually one of the most fun activities in the game. Venturing out to discover other planets sounds like the perfect group activity. And then, it just isn't. You kinda see a pattern here. Because you can only bring your neighbors with you, not real players. And that feels like a very obvious thing to expand. Even a simple system where 1 or 2 players can join, replacing a neighbor slot and share the rewards. This would already make it feel like a proper cooperative activity. The foundation is there, it just hasn't been extended to multiplayer yet. And I would really love to make these explorations alongside Lumi, of course.
Aw, you just want to steal my blueprints, be honest. But yeah, there are also some other smaller systems that are cool, but could be even cooler if taken a step further. You can sell your crops on a friend's planet for different prices, as the crop market changes daily for every player. You can also buy furniture, seeds and outfits from their glance shop. If you're friends in-game, you can even visit them while they're offline. All of that is nice, but again, it stops just before becoming truly useful, because there's a tiny layer of quality of life missing still. For example, you can't easily compare prices across planets, so you'll have to pack your crops and visit everyone on your friends list to find out that no one buys tomatoes at a high price today. Time waste. Hopefully they at least have a nice planet. Even the letter system, which is such a cute idea on paper, feels a bit meaningless. You can write small letters to other players and read theirs. But especially with the server clusters not being language exclusive, communication gets pretty messy across different languages. You better get back into your Duolingo French. We would love to see some purpose to this, like exchanging extra copies of blueprints with others or something. It's like cute, but it just needs a bit more purpose.
And that's kind of the overall feeling with multiplayer in Petit Planet. It's neither broken nor bad, it just feels a bit unfinished, but with huge potential. The systems exist, but they don't fully connect yet. And because of that, you end up spending most of your meaningful time either alone or with your neighbors, and not with your friends.
But here's the thing, even with all of that, we still like the game. A lot actually, because the foundation is so strong. The atmosphere, customization, all the characters, the sense of exploration you get, all of that already works. And you can see exactly where multiplayer could slot into that. It doesn't need a complete overhaul, just a few key additions like shared spaces, better trading, more cooperative activities. And suddenly, the whole experience changes.
So yeah, that's where we are right now. And in all honesty, it's obviously still early. Petit Planet is a really charming life sim that does a lot of things right. But the multiplayer really needs some more time in the oven. Right now it's just warm, not done. And that's the part we hope they expand on. Because if they do, this could easily turn into something much more than just a solo experience with social features on top. And honestly, it's not that far off.